Welcome back, class. For today's Deck Building 101, we're going to be going over the concepts of foundation control in Universus. Now, I've broken this down into three pretty basic categories. We have our Debuild strategies, our committal strategies, and what I call a choke strategy. And I have three different decks here that we will be going over today. So I have left the links in the description below, so if you want to open those up in alternate tabs to follow along, I'll give you a minute. Hey, Sam. You want to say hi? Say hi, Sam. Alright, are we ready? Let's begin. So the first foundation control strategy we're going to go over is debuilding. This is either destroying, removing, or otherwise getting rid of your rival's foundation cards that are in their stage so that you can have more control over the tempo of the game. And one of the main harbingers of this deck style is Minoru Mineta 2, a character I personally have a disdain for, mainly because I don't like Mineta, even if I do like this particular character build. He has an enhance that says once per turn, your rival has to add one of their foundations from their stage to their card pool. Now if it's their turn when you do this, they get to build the top card of their deck face down. Otherwise, if you do this on your turn, they're simply left with one fewer foundations, and that can be incredibly dangerous, because while Mineta is only a 5-hand size character, who has limited building resources, if he can use this effect and other debuilding strategy cards, he can kind of run away with the game. I actually ran into a Mineta 2 during the webcam regional in Season 1 of 2024, and as a fellow 5-hand size character, I did not fare very well. So I built this foundation control deck off of Death. Death has a lot of foundation destruction abilities, so let's get into some of the pieces we use here. We have Malefic Grenade, which at the cost of one of our momentum, we can give this attack 3 speed, and if it deals damage, we force our rival to destroy a foundation. This is the kind of bread and butter of debuild strategies. You won't always have cards like Mineta, which can move foundations out of the card pool, or out of the stage to the card pool. It's usually destructive effects. We have Malefic Grenade, Deterioration Palm. If your rival has 8 or more foundations and this attack deals damage, they destroy one. We have Acid Splash. We can spend a momentum to selectively destroy a rival foundation. Cluster Bombs allows us to selectively destroy a rival foundation or force them to lose 3 health. And in Deadlock, we can destroy 2 rival foundations. With a debuild strategy, they're likely never getting to Deadlock. We have Mass Decay, which can force our rival to destroy 1 foundation and flip a foundation. Red Riot Unbreakable, which allows us to build while we are destroying a rival foundation. And Red Gauntlet, which if it's destroyed, or if it deals damage, we can force our rival to destroy 2 face-down foundations, which in a deck like Mineta can help clear those face-down foundations built through Mineta's effect. So your attack lineup is almost always going to have a sort of foundation destruction or removal ability, because you want to be able to drop your rival's foundations with every single attack you throw. Onto our foundations, we have cards like Cheerful Teen, which says after a foundation is destroyed, we get to draw 1 card, which as a 5-hander, this is a very handy ability. We're always going to be destroying rival foundations, so the ability to then draw off of that to continue either building on our turn or throwing more attacks is something that's really going to challenge our rival. We have Disrespectful Banter, which can destroy a rival foundation to get damage. Fighting for Control gives our rivals check to play a non-foundation card -2, which if we're getting rid of their foundations, making it harder and harder for them to play their cards, we can just shut turns down with cards like Fighting for Control. We have Prank War, which destroys foundations when they flip as cost. Warped Pleasure, which says just players that have 6 or more foundations each destroy a foundation, so just freely blowing up foundations. Keiko's Aid, after we block an attack, giving +2 difficulty to the next attack while we're getting rid of their foundations, makes things really, really difficult to play those strings. We have Confronting the MLA. If we have to destroy this card, we can spend Rival's Momentum. Frightening Calm can give us Stun at the cost of destroying one of our foundations to stun one of their already very limited resources. Togoro's Dominance can destroy a rival foundation after it plays its ability. And then we just have a couple of other things to boost our own defenses or offenses as need be. But that is the main strategy for a Debuild deck. You just want to get rid of as many opponent foundations as possible, as quickly as possible, and a character like Mineta can absolutely make this happen. So let's move on to our next deck, which will be our Commit style deck, which we're going to go over with Toya from the Dark Tournament. Toya says if we block an attack, we get to force our rival to commit one foundation. Obviously, as in the name, commit styles, or stun style decks, we want to commit as many foundations as our rival has as possible. One might think that debuilding is easier, but stun and committal decks actually have their own really good niches. As with Toya, once per turn, an attack can get plus X or minus X speed. X equals the number of committed rival foundations. Now, this is also good for attacks like Ice Sword Execution, which allow you to freeze rival foundations, which means you select one of their committed foundations, and that foundation will not ready during their next ready step, which means they go into their turn with fewer resources, and then thus into your turn with fewer resources. Freezing is a good way to force rivals into deadlock, because they will need to build more foundations to combat the fact that you're freezing their foundations. But we have cards with stun, which is this yellow keyword right here, which says when we activate this enhance, our rival has to commit a number of foundations equal to our stun rating. So with like Around the World, they'd have to commit 1. Walk the Dog is a great... I lost my word there. A great finisher move for stun-based decks, because as an 8 difficulty move, it's very hard to play. But its static here says that it gets -1 to its difficulty for each committed foundation that our rival has, to a maximum of -4. So this can become a 4 difficulty move. It has stun 1, it is a 6 low 6, which is already respectable stats, and powerful 3, which means we can spend momentum, and for each momentum we spend, we get 3 extra damage. So if we're committing cards on our rival's turn, with Toya, just by playing defense, and then using stun on our turn, we can guarantee that Walk the Dog will always be a 4 difficulty move, hello Sam, and will always be able to connect because of these high-speed moves and forcing our rival to really struggle to play defensively. We have cards like Shards of Winter, which not only has stun, but gives itself plus X speed, X being the number of committed rival foundations. So if they have 5 committed foundations, this gets plus 5 speed, which is nothing to sneeze at. We have Vile Seizing, which if our rival doesn't have as many ready resources, they can't pass this difficulty 7 check that we're going to force them to do, which will let us draw a card and get more damage on our Vile Seizings. We also have this handy Breaker ability, which increases the difficulty of the next card our rival plays when we block with it. So if we're committing their foundations on defense and freezing their foundations, we're going to make sure that we're going to try to stop their turns as quickly as possible. It unboxes just fancy defense, and we have Showdown, which as played as a block, we can selectively commit 2 of our rival's foundations, which pairs really well with Toya's Enhance to force our rival to commit a 3rd foundation. So committing 3 foundations on 1 block can really shut down a rival's attack turn. Similar to the Debuild strategies, fighting for control, hacking the checks to play cards, really is a solid kind of hand-in-hand strategy with these committal decks. Time to Rest is just defense. Master of Drunken Fighting commits itself and forces our rival to commit a foundation, which we can do both offensively and defensively. So committed on our rival's turn, they're forced to commit 1. It readies during our turn, we commit it on our turn to make them commit another card. So really just staggering down to turn as many of their foundations sideways as possible so they can't block our offense. Stumbling Warrior boosts damage on our stuns. Acrobatic Style is a must include on these 3 symbols of Air, Chaos, and Order if you're playing one of these committal decks, because if you commit a card due to your effect on in your rival's stage, if they have to commit basically for your stun or your showdown, you can flip this committed card to ready itself to continue your strings or make blocking easier. Childlike appearance is great defense. It reduces the speed of an attack to 0, and if that attack is blocked, you get to commit one rival foundation selectively. We have new number 1 for speed control, elasticity for damage control or damage boosting. Creeped Out helps our defenses and helps cancel Breaker. We have Raiding the Villain Hideout and Sense of Justice, making more defense solid. Drowning in Resentment can boost our stun attacks damage. Ice Gliding helps with speed manipulation. Making a Stand gives us momentum control and more damage on our stun attacks. And Final Exam Failures allows us to force our rival to make a check against a difficulty of 6 on our turn, which if we're committing cards on defense and offense, they're not going to have a lot to commit, because if they fail, they have to destroy one ready foundation. So a little bit of debuild and a little bit of committal. So that is the commit style. You're trying to use effects to force your rival to commit cards on their turn, and then your attacks will usually have the stun keyword, and forcing your rival to commit cards on your turn so that all of your damage gets through unhindered. Lastly, we have the deck style that I call the choke style. This is based around flipping your rival's foundations. You're not destroying them and you're not committing them, but you're turning them face down, which means they still count as foundations, but they have no effects. They have no abilities. And this is one of the easiest ways to get your rival to build into what's called deadlock. Deadlock is when you have at least 11 foundations, and it unlocks a lot of very powerful abilities. I'm not sure what deadlock I have in here, because I built this very quickly just to try to show you how you flip a lot of cards, and we'll go over some deadlock here in a little bit. So Byakko can mill 3 cards, so you mill the top 3 cards of your deck, during your attack to force your rival to flip 1 foundation. So every one of your attacks you can force your rival to turn one of their foundations face down, making sure that they lose damage reduction, speed reduction, damage bonuses, speed bonuses, draw cards, their own foundation destruction to try to keep themselves out of deadlock. If you can turn their foundations face down as quickly as they play them, your rival basically can only depend on their attacks abilities, and they won't have any support from their stage. We have Cat's Claw Face Grab, which is a throw attack which can commit rival foundations. Biting Dragon Grab is just a throw because Byakko can give damage to throws. We have Butte Basher, which can force our rival to flip up to 2 foundations depending on if they have 8 or more, which if you're forcing them to build more and more foundations to actually use them, they're usually going to build way past 8. Risho's Meteor is a fun choke card with these 3 symbols, Earth, Life, and Evil. It is a 2-check, which is a little dangerous, but you can flip 1 rival foundation to force your rival's check to block, next check to play a card to get minus X. X equals the difficulty of that foundation. Usually you're going to try to target a 2 difficulty foundation, or if you're lucky, a 3 difficulty foundation, because then if this attack is not blocked, your rival has to flip 2 additional foundations. So with Byakko, you can effectively flip up to 4 foundations with 1 single attack, which is devastating. Then we have Massive Blow, which forces us to mill 3 cards, and if we do, and our printed health is higher than our rivals, which I'm just going to let you in on a secret, 38 is the highest printed health right now. I believe that's tied with Fresh Cut Grass. I don't know if Fresh Cut Grass is 39. Fresh Cut Grass might be 39. Anyway, Massive Blow can get +2 to its powerful rating, which is already powerful 3, turning that to a powerful 5, and forces our rival to flip a foundation. And then we have Flying Dragon Tackle, which if it's blocked, our rival has to flip a foundation. So when we're making it big with Byakko, they're going to want to block it, so they're going to have to flip their foundations. We have Dark Tournament Looms, just to get us our attacks back from our momentum and draw cards. But moving into our foundations, we have a lot of defense here. We have Split Body Control, which we can flip it after our attack is blocked. We selectively flip a rival foundation, so we can choose which rival foundation to flip. We have Thunderous Roar. This is a great way to take control of those choked out foundations, because we get to commit this, and our attack is +1 speed for each rival face down foundation. And if we have 30 or more cards in our discard pile, it gets 2 speed instead of 1 for each flipped rival foundation. So if they have 8 foundations face down, we get plus 8 speed on attacks that we can make absolutely massive. We have Internship with Best Genist, which as a response we can mill the top card of our deck after we play this card, either as a block or a foundation as a form. We can flip one rival foundation, force our rival to flip a foundation. And cards like Steadfast Resolve can get rid of our face-down foundations that we're going to flip for all of our funness, like Split Body Control, to get plus or minus damage as needed. So that is kind of the basics of a choke-style deck, where you're trying to not worry about your rival having foundations. You're taking away all of the abilities of those foundations, leaving your rival able to pass checks, but not do much of anything else. So let's go into... That Byakko deck was based on Earth, so let's just look at Earth standard Deadlock cards. So we have cards like plus Ultra Prominence Burn. This turn, our attacks get 2 speed and our rival cannot gain health. That's pretty insane. More Power. We can flip this in Deadlock to give our attack 5 speed or 5 damage. We can use Dragonic Impact to draw 2 cards and flip 2 rival foundations. After we play Dragon Strike, we can add the top 2 cards of our deck to our Momentum. We can give Lacquered Chain Prison after we play it as an attack, 3 speed and 3 damage in Deadlock, making it an 8 low 7, which is insane. So yeah, Deadlock is an incredibly powerful mechanic. Deadlock on One for All Unleashed, we get to draw 4 cards for free, just for our rival having 11 foundations. So these choke-style decks, Deadlock Enhance here on Muscle Mauler, flip 2 rival foundations. Terrifying Injury, we can flip it in Deadlock to remove a rival foundation. So if our rival has at least 11 foundations, we can remove their most dangerous foundation. Deadlock Enhance on Fancy Feast, our attack gets plus 4 speed and plus 4 damage. 4 speed and 4 damage. That's insane amounts of rates. And with the infinity symbol here, the infinity symbol means we can play it in absolutely any deck, no matter the symbol. So it's treated as whatever symbol your deck is built off of. Gargantuan Bellow says our attacks get plus 2 damage for the turn. Prehensile Tail says our kick, punch, or slam gets 3 damage and throw. So there's just a lot of dangerous Deadlock, like leaping right hook. Our attack gets plus 2 speed and plus 4 damage. It becomes a 4 high for 8, or a 5 high for 8. So Deadlock is an incredibly dangerous spot to be in. So usually people will have what the community calls lock breakers, which are foundations usually that can destroy your own foundations to keep you out of Deadlock, to keep you at that maximum 10. But if all of your lock breakers have been flipped, and you need defensive cards, you're going to keep playing defensive foundations to try to stop your rival from flipping your stuff. And just the more you do that, if you can push your rival into Deadlock, you can gain access to a host of dangerous abilities. On Death, there were some really good Deadlock abilities like Grenadier Bracers. Your rival destroys 4 foundations. Or Strike. Some younger Toguro decks, when he was first introduced, ran Or Strike for the ability for younger Toguro to build your rival into Deadlock. And his Deadlock Enhance says your rival discards 3 cards. They just lose 3 cards out of their hand for having 11 foundations. That is insane. You have Deft Maneuvers, giving free stats to your weapons. Stylish Threads can just add 2 cards from your rival's discard pile to their card pool. Number 5 Pro Hero can remove itself to clear 5 cards from your card pool. That basically gives you another turn if you have enough draw. There is so much dangerous stuff like Vile Seizing in Deadlock. Your rival's checks get -2 for the rest of the turn. Forcing your rival into Deadlock with a choke-style deck can be incredibly beneficial. Because it unlocks those very, very dangerous abilities. And if you're able to selectively flip your rival's lock breakers, they're going to be forced to either never play more foundations and just deal with their attacks enhances on their own, which usually isn't going to get them anywhere, especially if you still have access to all of your foundation's offensive and defensive capabilities. In this essence, you've taken full control of that game. And that's kind of what these foundation-controlled decks do. They take control of the flow of the game, either through forcing your rival to play with very few foundations, which means they're not going to be able to play a lot of offense or defense, because they're going to have to keep building to try to play defensively, or committing their entire stage so they can't block your attacks or hopefully play more of their own attacks, or you're choking their entire stage so that they have no access to offensive or defensive abilities. They just have to play with basically 1/3 of their deck. They can play with attacks, but they don't get any foundations. They might have actions, they might have assets, but they don't have access to any really basically 1/2 of their deck with these choke style decks. So that is the basics of the 3 different types of foundation control. I hope you guys found this entertaining and informative. If you did, please like the video. If you're new to the channel, still finding your way through Universus, welcome. Please consider subscribing to the channel and checking out the entire Hermit School of Universus playlist, where I break down all of the basic mechanics and rules of the game of Universus, including these deck building 101s, where I go over the different types of decks and deck styles that you can build. And yeah, if you have any other thoughts for different types of decks you'd like to see built, hit me up on Discord, UVS Hermit. I'm pretty easy to find in the UVS Discord. And yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add, so